Professor Reed adjusted his third eye protector as he looked at his students aboard the research vessel Academic Dream. The ship's name, written in both Standard Galactic and his native language, gleamed under the artificial lights. He had 12 of the brightest senior students from the Galactic Academy's Xenoanthropology department, all eager to study the newly discovered species called humans. "Remember," he said, his voice translator making the clicks and whistles of his natural speech understandable to all species present, "humans are classified as a Level 2 developing civilization. They have basic space flight capabilities, but haven't yet achieved faster-than-light travel." He paused, noting how his students' various appendages twitched with excitement. Blue, one of his most promising students, raised a tentacle. Unlike most of his aquatic species, Blue had chosen to study on land rather than in the Academy's water chambers. "Professor, is it true that humans continue their activities even when their sun is at peak radiation levels?" "An excellent question," Reed replied, bringing up a holographic display of Earth's weather patterns. "Humans have evolved remarkable radiation resistance compared to most species. They even deliberately expose themselves to their sun's rays for entertainment." A collective shudder ran through the classroom pod. Red, a student from the crystalline plains of the Outer Rim, chimed in through her harmonic resonator. "But surely they seek shelter during their planet's extreme weather events." Professor Reed's facial ridges twitched in what his species considered a smile. "You would think so. That's actually one of the phenomena we'll be studying during our field trip." The ship's AI announced their approach to Earth's atmosphere. Through the view screen, the blue-green planet grew larger. Most of the students had never seen so much water in liquid form on a planet's surface. "We'll be setting up our observation post in what they call the American Midwest," Reed explained, zooming in on their target location. "It's currently experiencing what humans call spring, a season of moderate temperatures and frequent precipitation." Green, the youngest of the group, nervously adjusted her gravity compensator. "Professor, what about the quarantine protocols? I heard humans are extremely social and might try to initiate contact." "Don't worry," Reed assured her. "Our ship's cloaking technology is top of the line. We'll be completely invisible to their current level of technology. Besides, we've chosen a small settlement of only 50,000 humans." Several students gasped at the number. "Yes, humans tend to cluster in large groups," Reed explained. "This is actually considered a small human settlement. Now, please activate your personal shields. They'll keep you invisible and protect you from any accidental contact." The ship descended through the clouds, its advanced systems easily handling Earth's turbulent atmosphere. As they approached their landing zone just outside the town of Hope Valley, Reed noticed something peculiar on his sensors. "Fascinating," he muttered. "The humans are gathering in large numbers at that rectangular field. They appear to be preparing for some sort of ritual." The students crowded around the viewing ports, their various sensory organs straining to take in every detail. Below them, hundreds of humans were filling what they would later learn was a high school football stadium. "Remember your training," Reed said as the ship touched down in a cloaked state. "We're here to observe and document. Under no circumstances should you interact with the humans. They're unpredictable, and we don't want to risk contaminating their natural development." As the students prepared their research equipment, none of them noticed the small warning light blinking on the ship's atmospheric analyzer. It was trying to warn them about the unusually high levels of adrenaline and other excitement hormones in the air around the stadium. Professor Reed made his final checks on the environmental safety systems. "This will be a simple 2-week observational study. We'll document their basic social structures, survival strategies, and cultural practices. Nothing too exciting." He had no idea just how wrong he was about to be about everything. The first signs of trouble began when Team 1, led by Blue, approached the human gathering at the football stadium. Their personal shields hummed softly as they moved through the crowd, completely invisible to human eyes. "Professor," Blue whispered into his communication device, "the humans are dividing themselves into 2 groups. They're wearing different colored protective gear." Reed's voice crackled back, "Excellent observation. Document everything. The stadium lights blazed against the darkening sky. Blue's team watched in growing horror as two groups of young humans crashed into each other repeatedly on the field. The crowd roared with each collision. They're attacking each other. Green's voice trembled. But the older humans are cheering. Is this some kind of gladiator ritual? A particularly hard tackle made all three alien observers jump. Their sensors detected no serious injuries, but the violence of the sport was overwhelming. Meanwhile, Team 2, led by Red, had wandered into what humans called a county fair. The swirl of lights, sounds, and smells overwhelmed their sensitive instruments. "Professor," Red transmitted urgently, "we've discovered some kind of chemical warfare testing facility. The humans are willingly consuming substances that are causing them visible distress." Reed checked their location. "What do you mean?" "They call it a hot wing eating contest," Red reported, watching humans sweat and turn red as they devoured bright orange food. Their pain responses are clearly activated, yet they continue eating. Some are even celebrating. The professor made a note about human pain tolerance and their bizarre relationship with capsaicin. Team 3, observing what appeared to be a playground, was equally disturbed. They watched as small humans climbed tall structures and jumped off, swung on chains high above the ground, and spun themselves until they could barely walk. "Professor," the team leader reported, "we're witnessing some kind of endurance training for young humans. They appear to be testing their limits against gravity itself." Reed was about to respond when a loud crack of thunder shook the air. Several of his students jumped in alarm, but what happened next was even more shocking. The humans barely reacted. A few looked up at the dark clouds, but most continued their activities. At the football game, the players kept slamming into each other. At the fair, people simply opened umbrellas or sought shelter under tents, continuing to eat their spicy food. The children at the playground reluctantly left only when their parents called them, many protesting that a little rain never hurt anyone. "Professor," Blue called in, his voice shaking, "our xenobiology training never prepared us for this. These humans, they're ignoring a Class 2 atmospheric disturbance like it's nothing." Reed tried to calm his students, but he was starting to worry. In just their first few hours of observation, humans had displayed resistance to weather, tolerance for pain, enjoyment of controlled violence, and a seemingly complete disregard for personal safety. The situation got worse when Green, still rattled by the football game, accidentally backed into a human teenager while trying to avoid a mud puddle. Her personal shield flickered for just a second from the contact. The human boy stopped, looking around with interest. "Whoa, did you see that? Some kind of light." Green froze in terror as more teenagers gathered, pointing and discussing the strange phenomenon they glimpsed. "Everyone, return to the ship immediately," Reed ordered. "We need to review our safety protocols." As his students hurried back through the rain, Reed realized their simple observation mission was becoming much more complicated. Humans were proving to be far more resilient and interesting than their Level 2 classification suggested. And they hadn't even made it through their first day on Earth. Back on the academic dream, Professor Reed called an emergency meeting. His students huddled in the ship's main classroom, still shaken by their first observations of human behavior. The vessel's cloaking system hummed quietly as rain pattered against its hull. "Let's review what we've learned," Reed said, trying to sound calmer than he felt. "Blue, please share your team's findings about the ritual combat event." Blue's tentacles twisted nervously as he projected his data onto the classroom's holoscreen. "The activity is called football. Young humans deliberately crash into each other while fighting over an egg-shaped object. More disturbing is that hundreds of humans gather to watch this violence and celebrate it. And these are their education centers," Green added, her color shifting to a pale mint with anxiety. "They train their young to battle while solving complex mathematical formations." Reed noted how the humans called these formations plays, as if combat strategy was merely a game to them. Red's team presented next, sharing their findings from the festival. The humans have weaponized their food, she reported through her harmonic resonator. They turned simple nutrition into endurance challenges. We recorded several humans consuming enough capsaicin to stun a Grenthak beast, and they called it medium spicy. The professor was about to respond when the ship's sensors detected increased activity in the town. On their monitors, they watched as the teenager who had spotted Green's shield malfunction posted about it on something called social media. Look at these responses. Yellow, their communication specialist, said with growing concern, "The humans aren't afraid. They're excited about possible alien contact." The class watched in horror as humans began sharing their own theories and stories. Within hours, the small shield malfunction had sparked a local sensation. "Professor," Purple called from the ship's data analysis station, "you need to see this. I've been studying their entertainment content, and—" He paused, his crystalline structure trembling slightly. "They have thousands of stories about alien contact." Reed floated over to Purple's station, his gravity adjustments forgotten in his concern. The screen displayed an endless list of movies, books, and games about aliens. "Some of these stories show peaceful contact," Purple continued, "but many of them show humans fighting and defeating advanced alien civilizations. They dream about battling creatures from space and winning." The classroom erupted in nervous chirps, whistles, and vibrations. "That's not the worst part," Blue added, bringing up more data. "I found their historical records. These humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. They've developed weapons we can barely understand. And now they're looking to the stars." Reed studied the data with growing unease. The human space programs were primitive by galactic standards, but their progress was remarkably fast. They had gone from basic flight to lunar landing in less than 70 Earth years. Suddenly, the ship's sensors blared an alert. Outside, a group of human teenagers had gathered in the field near their cloaked ship, hoping to spot more strange lights. They were using primitive detection devices, phones, and cameras, trying to document any unusual activity. "How can they be so reckless?" Green whispered. "They don't know what we are, yet they actively seek contact." Because, Reed realized, his professional detachment finally cracking, humans aren't just adaptable. They're curious. They don't run from the unknown. They chase it. The class watched as more humans joined the group outside, some bringing food and drinks as if alien hunting was just another social activity. "Professor," Blue asked quietly, "should we leave?" Reed shook his head. "No, but we need to be much more careful. These humans, they're not what we expected. They're far more dangerous than that." A flash of lightning illuminated the human crowd outside. They cheered at the thunder, treating even their planet's threats as entertainment. The professor had a sinking feeling that their mission was about to become far more complicated than anyone had anticipated. As night fell over Hope Valley, the alien students divided into research teams to analyze human entertainment media. They hoped to better understand these strange creatures who seemed to defy all logical survival instincts. What they discovered only increased their anxiety. "Professor," Yellow called from her media station, her crystalline form flickering with distress. "These humans have entire entertainment channels dedicated to something called extreme sports. They jump out of flying vehicles for fun." Reed floated over to her screen, watching footage of skydivers performing aerial tricks. "They seem to deliberately seek out dangerous situations for entertainment." "It gets worse," Blue added from another station. "Look at this activity called rock climbing. They scale vertical cliffs with minimal safety equipment. Some even do it without any ropes." The professor's third eye twitched as he watched humans challenging gravity itself. His species had evolved on a low-gravity world. The very idea of deliberately climbing high places made him feel ill. Red's harmonic voice cut through the discussion. "Professor, I found something truly disturbing in their historical archives. These humans have survived multiple extinction-level events. The classroom fell silent as Red projected her findings. Ice ages, supervolcanoes, massive meteorites. Humans or their direct ancestors had survived them all. Not only survived but thrived. They adapt to any environment. Red continued, her voice trembling. Desert, Arctic, mountains, forests. Humans live everywhere. They even build artificial environments in places too hostile for survival. Green, who had been studying human medical practices, added her own unsettling discoveries. Their healing abilities are extraordinary. They can lose entire limbs and survive, their bones knit back together. They can even donate organs to each other and continue living. Professor Reed felt his professional detachment slipping as the evidence mounted. These humans weren't just curious or resilient. They were practically indestructible by galactic standards. Purple, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. "You all need to see this." He projected his screen, showing human space exploration history. They reached their moon using computers less powerful than our personal communicators, Purple explained. They sent probes beyond their solar system with primitive technology. And look at their future plans: Mars colonies, asteroid mining, interstellar travel. The class watched in growing horror as Purple showed them human science fiction alongside their actual space programs. The humans weren't just dreaming about space travel, they were actively working to make it happen. But here's the most terrifying part, Purple continued. They're doing all this not because they have to, but because they want to. They call it pushing the boundaries and exploring the final frontier. Reed studied the data with growing concern. In just over a century, humans had gone from basic powered flight to planning interplanetary colonization. Their progress was exponential. Suddenly, the ship's sensors detected a new gathering of humans outside. This time, they had brought more sophisticated equipment: amateur radio detectors, thermal cameras, and even a small telescope. "They're searching for us more actively now," Blue observed. The social media posts about the shield malfunction have spread beyond this town. Humans from neighboring settlements are coming to investigate. "Professor," Yellow asked, her voice barely a whisper, "what happens when they develop technology advanced enough to detect us?" According to their entertainment media, their first instinct is usually to. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. They had all seen enough human action movies by now to know how humans typically reacted to alien life in their stories. "We need to contact the Academy," Reed decided. "Our classification of Earth needs immediate revision. These humans aren't just a developing species, they're potentially the most dangerous creatures we've ever encountered." As if to emphasize his point, they heard cheering outside as the human crowd grew larger, completely unfazed by the darkness and cold. These beings didn't just endure hardship, they challenged it head-on. And soon, they would be looking to challenge the stars themselves. The weather warning system on the academic dream blared to life, startling Professor Reeve and his students. The ship's sensors had detected a severe storm system approaching Hope Valley. Wind speeds were rising, and the atmospheric pressure was dropping rapidly. Finally, Blue said, his tentacles relaxing slightly, "The humans will have to seek shelter now. We can study their emergency response protocols." How wrong he was. The class watched in disbelief as many humans not only stayed outside, but actually gathered on their porches to watch the storm approach. Some even had devices ready to record the dangerous weather. "Professor," Green called out, her color shifting rapidly with anxiety. "The human information networks are calling this a tornado warning. According to their data, these storms can lift buildings. Surely now they'll evacuate," Red said through her harmonic resonator. "Even humans must have survival instincts." The aliens observed as emergency sirens wailed across town. Some humans did head to basement shelters, but others jumped into vehicles and drove toward the storm. They called themselves storm chasers and treated the deadly weather like an exciting show. "Look at their communication channels," Yellow reported, monitoring local radio and internet traffic. They're coordinating rescue teams before the storm even hits. They have something called emergency services on standby. Thunder cracked overhead, so loud it made the alien students tremble. But outside, human children were laughing and counting seconds between lightning and thunder to calculate the storm's distance, turning even this into a game. The tornado sirens blared again. Through their monitors, the class watched an incredible scene unfold. Humans were helping each other prepare, tying down loose objects, sharing shelter space, making sure elderly neighbors were safe. Their response wasn't just about individual survival. They were working together. "This behavior makes no sense," Purple said, his crystalline structure vibrating with confusion. "They show both complete disregard for danger and highly organized crisis response. How can they be both?" Reed watched as humans coordinated through their primitive communication devices, sharing weather updates and offering help. They've adapted to their world's extreme conditions, he realized. They don't just survive disasters. They've learned to face them together. The storm intensified. Wind rattled the cloaked ship, and rain fell in sheets. Lightning lit up the sky in constant flashes. To the aliens' horror, several humans were still outside, securing a damaged roof on an elderly person's house before the worst hit. "Professor," Blue called urgently, "you need to see this. The humans at the high school have opened something called a shelter. They're providing food and sleeping spaces for anyone who needs it." The aliens watched as humans helped strangers, shared resources, and comforted scared children. It was a side of humanity they hadn't expected. Cooperation and compassion on a scale that rivaled their most advanced civilizations. "They're terrifying," Green whispered, "but not just because they're dangerous. They're terrifying because nothing seems to stop them, not even their own planet's fury." A massive lightning bolt struck nearby, temporarily disrupting the ship's cloaking field. For a brief moment, their vessel was visible to the human eye. Several storm watchers pointed and shouted excitedly, completely unfazed by both the weather and the glimpse of alien technology. "Did you see that?" They heard a human yell. Right in the middle of the storm. "Get it on video." Professor Reed made a decision. "We need to move the ship. These humans, they won't run from the storm, and they won't run from us. If anything, the danger just makes them more interested." As they carefully relocated their vessel, the aliens continued monitoring the town. The humans weren't just surviving the storm. They were helping each other through it, documenting it, and some were even celebrating it. "No wonder they dream of conquering space," Reed muttered. "Their entire history is about conquering the impossible." The morning after the storm, Professor Reed gathered his students in the ship's main research lab. The walls were covered with data screens showing everything they had learned about humans. It was time to compile their findings and prepare their report for the Galactic Academy. "Let's start with basic physical capabilities," Reed said, pulling up their biological scans. "Blue, share your analysis." Blue's tentacles moved nervously as he displayed his findings. "Humans are terrifying on a biological level. They can break bones and heal them stronger. They can lose blood and make more. They can even survive losing entire limbs and continue functioning with artificial replacements." "And their environmental adaptations?" Reed prompted. Red's crystalline form sparkled as she added her data. "They live in every climate on their planet. Desert heat, Arctic cold, high mountains, deep valleys. Nothing stops them. They don't adapt their bodies to the environment. They force the environment to adapt to them." The professor watched as more shocking facts appeared on their screens. Humans could go days without sleep. They could run for hours until their prey collapsed from exhaustion. Their bodies could process an incredible variety of foods. They could survive injuries that would kill most species. They actively sought out ways to make their bodies stronger. "But that's not even the scariest part," Purple added, bringing up his cultural analysis. "Look at how they spend their free time." The screens filled with images that made the alien students shudder. Humans climbing frozen waterfalls. People jumping out of perfectly good aircraft. individuals lifting massive weights for fun, groups running through obstacle courses covered in mud, children playing games that mimicked combat. They make entertainment out of activities that should kill them, Yellow observed, her voice trembling. And they call it sports or hobbies. Green, who had been analyzing human history, stepped forward. Professor, I think I understand why they're like this. Look at their evolutionary path. She displayed a timeline showing how humans had survived countless disasters. Ice ages that froze their planet, massive volcanic eruptions, meteor impacts, plagues and diseases, climate changes, wars and conflicts. They didn't just survive these events, Green explained. Each disaster made them stronger, more adaptable, more determined. They turned survival itself into a science. Professor Reed nodded gravely. And now they're looking to the stars. Show me their space program data. The screens filled with information about human space exploration. In less than a century, they had gone from primitive flight to landing on their moon. They had sent probes to other planets and were planning colonies on Mars. They're advancing too fast, Blue said, his color darkening with worry. At their current rate of progress, they'll achieve interstellar travel within a few generations. And look at their entertainment media, Red added quickly. Their most popular stories are about overcoming impossible odds. They imagine themselves defeating advanced alien invasions, surviving apocalyptic events, and conquering the galaxy. The professor studied all the data carefully. In his long career, he had never encountered a species quite like humans. They weren't the strongest, fastest, or most technologically advanced, but they were possibly the most dangerous species he had ever studied. We need to update their classification immediately, Reed decided. They're not just a developing civilization. They're a potential galactic power in the making. Just then, the ship's sensors detected more human activity outside. Through their monitors, they watched as the town came together to clean up after the storm. Humans were helping strangers repair homes, sharing food, and checking on neighbors. That's what makes them truly dangerous, Reed said softly. They can be incredibly destructive, yet equally cooperative. They're capable of amazing violence, yet show remarkable kindness. They're not just survivors, they're innovators who refuse to accept limitations. The class fell silent as they watched the humans below, realizing that they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. A species that turned adversity into advantage, fear into curiosity, and impossibility into challenge. The emergency meeting of the Academic Dreams crew started early the next morning. After 3 days of observing humans, none of the alien students had slept well. Even Professor Reed's usually neat head ridges were ruffled with stress. We need to leave, Blue announced, his tentacles waving anxiously. Every hour we stay increases the risk of detection. The morning news played on their monitors, showing multiple videos of their ship's brief appearance during the storm. The humans had enhanced the footage, analyzed it from every angle, and were organizing larger search parties. I agree, Red chimed through her harmonic resonator. These humans don't fear the unknown. They chase it. They're treating potential alien contact like some kind of exciting game. Professor Reed floated to the center of the room, trying to maintain his professional composure. Before we vote on leaving, let's finalize our report to the Academy. Purple, show us your final classification recommendations. Purple's crystalline form glowed as he displayed their new assessment of humanity. UPD Earth CLA Sci-Fi Cation. Previous status, Level 2 Developing Civilization. New status, Level 5 Extreme K Ocean Species. Threat level, high. Development speed, unprecedented. First contact readiness. DDLA REACOMMND. Look at their potential growth curve, Purple explained, showing a graph of human technological progress. They went from horse-drawn carriages to space exploration in just over a century. Their rate of advancement is almost vertical. Green added her behavioral analysis. They show traits we've never seen combined in one species. They actively seek out challenges. They thrive on solving impossible problems. They can be both extremely violent and incredibly cooperative. They treat deadly situations as entertainment. They turn survival skills into recreational activities. Just then, Yellow called out from her monitoring station, "Professor, you need to see this. The humans are organizing something called a welcome party near our landing site. They're bringing food, music, and telescopes." The aliens watched in disbelief as humans set up what appeared to be a celebration, hoping to attract alien visitors. Some had made friendly signs, while others prepared their recording devices. Even their attempt at first contact is chaos. Blue exclaimed, "Half of them want to greet us with peace signs, while others are trying to record evidence. Some are treating it like a scientific study, and the rest think it's a party." Professor Reed made his final notes in the ship's log. Humanity defies standard classification. They are simultaneously the most promising and most terrifying species we've encountered. They treat everything, from their planet's deadliest weather to potential alien contact, as an opportunity for either scientific study or entertainment, often both at once. The class voted unanimously to end their field trip early. As they prepared for departure, they watched one final scene unfold below. A small human child had fallen off her bicycle near their cloaked ship. Before any of them could process what was happening, 3 adult humans rushed to help her. They checked her injuries, comforted her, and even fixed her bicycle. "That's what makes them so remarkable," Reed said softly. "The same species that turns survival into a sport will drop everything to help an injured child." As the academic dream lifted off, invisibly rising through Earth's atmosphere, the professor added one final note to their report. Recommendation to the Galactic Academy. Earth must be approached with extreme caution, not because humans are hostile, but because they are unstoppable. They don't just face challenges, they actively seek them out. They don't just adapt to their environment, they adapt their environment to themselves. When humanity finally reaches the stars, they won't do it because they have to, but because they want to. And that makes them the most unpredictable species in the galaxy. Years later, when humans finally achieved faster-than-light travel and made official first contact, Professor Reed's report became required reading at the Academy. Its final warning was printed at the entrance of the Xenanthropology department. Never underestimate a species that invented hot sauce, skydiving, and space exploration, all while surviving on a planet that regularly tries to kill them.